In the 19th century, which was from 1789 to 1902, many things were occurring in the United States society to shape the social welfare policies. They were immigration, industrialization, the Civil War, expansion on the frontier, and the Moral Crusade. While there were many issues with the expansion of the frontier, the most notable is the removal policy that was enacted by Jefferson, which relocated native people far from the frontier land. Also, this purchase did not profit the poor as they could not typically afford the land. After Lincoln abolished slavery with the 13th Amendment, the Freedmen's Bureau was created in 1865 to help former slaves. However, this failed because it was not properly funded and many former slaves were not given land. Reconstruction after the war also brought about the 14th and 15th Amendment to give all citizens protection and universal suffrage for males. However, Jim Crow laws during this time still oppressed people of color. The industrialization that occurred after the Civil War brought an increase in technology, railroad expansion, and lower taxes. However, the government could not regulate the new massive corporations, so often work conditions were dangerous and employees were underpaid. Oppression of women revolved around the idea of the cult of domesticity and that women should stay in the home and raise the children. Even though the Declaration of Sentiments was signed by women to grant them suffrage in 1848, no social reform came from it. Oppression also occurred to the Spanish-speaking people and the Native Americans during the expansion on the frontier, as they were often forced to leave their land and relocate on land that would not sustain them. The only policy that attempted to help these two groups was the Dawes Act in 1860, which gave 160 acres of land back to people who had been displaced, but they were frequently coerced by Americans to sell their land. Oppression of immigrants was perhaps the most racist of all. During this time, many Irish, Chinese, and Japanese people fled their land in hope of establishing a better life for themselves in America. However, they were seen as cheap labor and were often exploited and treated poorly. The Moral Crusade was a social movement that was highly controlling. Many people in the land were Protestant and saw alcoholism, crime, and poverty corrupting the land. Many felt that with guidance, tent revivals, and sermons, the moral issues would go away. However, restricting the sale of alcohol, overcrowded poorhouses, high unemployment rates, and a misguided view on the disabled or mentally unstable takes more than a religious healing. The Moral Crusade was hardly a solution to the rampant problems in the 19th century due to the limited role the federal government played. The 19th century social reform was ineffective due to people's individualistic goals and intolerance of others.
Created using Powtoon.